Hello, this is Alia Ren from Nile Quantum Insights. Today we are going to learn how to look through multiple Excel files and sheets. Last time we learned how to import just regular Excel files into uh, Python using pollers. So let's get started. Here we have, this is the folder we have, this here multiple Excel files. Let me pull this one. So this is the file with multiple Excel sheet files, sorry. And then this is the one with multiple sheets. So we will first loop through or import the multiple Excel files. After that, we will import just multiple Excel sheets. The process is almost similar. Here, I'm going to use the list comprehension to do this. So the first thing we do is we say from glob, import glob, and then we just set the file path to glob, and then we get this one. This is the relative path, which is recommended for sharing files or whatever you want to share online. It is recommended, or it's the best practice for you to use relative path rather than absolute path. Since we have a file path here, what we are going to do now is start importing this. So as always, I'm going to start with the empty or blank parentheses. And since there are multiple, since there are multiple Excel files, we are going to use pollers concatenate to concatenate or combine the data frames together. So we are going to say pl.concat, and inside we are going to call, or actually let's do list comprehension. We are going to say pl.readExcel, and we are going to say for which is a file, just one file at a time. So we'll say read this for file in multiple Excel or multi underscore Excel underscore files. So let's run this and see what will happen. Okay, when we run it, we got this, and we see the shape here. We have 450 rows or observations and 11 columns or variables. So that is it. That's how you import multiple Excel files into pollers. Now we want to do some data cleanup because there are times when you may want to keep the file path because that may contain the name of the file. For example, at work, when I work with different hospitals, sometimes I name the files by individual hospital name, like say General Hospital X, and then maybe Hospital Y, Medical Center, and so on. So in that case, you want, as you are importing this data, you want to append the correct entity name. The entity here, I mean, it could be hospital, it could be state. In our case, we are working with South Sudan data, census data. So we want to append the state name. However, in our case, the state name column is already there. We have region name, which are the names of the states. So we don't need that. But for learning purposes, I'm going to show you how you can extract that. So to do that, I'm going to move this to the next line, and I will add with underscore columns, which is similar to mutate function in dplyr. And what this function or method allows us to do is to add new columns or to modify existing columns. It's used along with the dot select. So we are going to call this, maybe we call them a state, that column. Going to say pl dot literal, and then file, which is we want to take, each time we look through a file or a path, we want to extract that path and store it. So let's run this and see what we have. Another thing I may want to do is here add or chain on the head so that we only pull in a few rows. And so let's scroll to the right to see. Okay, and here we have just append each file path to our data frame. And how do you clean that? Because now it doesn't look that good. So the way we will clean it, I usually clean it as I go. So what I will do here, I will come back in here and I will say dot str dot split. Or before doing that, it's good to take a good look at what this is. So the way you can do that, there's a method called dot get column, and we will only pull out the column that we are just adding. Let's do that. And this is the column here. Now I'm going to say, just give me only unique values. Okay. And let's see, maybe let me do this. Let's try making this as a list. Yes. So converting that to a list is going to give us a well print out list. And so these, the path, each path is separated by a forward slash, but we are interested in the last part, which is each state name. So what we can do, we are going to use the str dot strip char, which is character, and then we will pull out the last piece. We will then replace the dot xlsx with empty spaces. There are many ways you can achieve this, but I'm just going to show you one way that I use when I'm working with the data. So we are going to say dot str dot stripped, and then we say char, and then we are going to say, how do we want to strip this? No, it's not a strip, it's a split, sorry. Oops. Okay, so we don't need these. We need to comment those out. We also don't need this. Okay. And then let's see. So now we have split it using the forward slash, and we see these. So what I will do, this is a list. So to pull it out, we are going to chain on a list like this. Like this, and then I'm going to use the method get, and get, I'm going to get the last value in the list. Oops. Okay, so when we get the last value, we see that we are getting the states, but there is dot Excel, to which we are going to remove. So what we will do, we will bring this down here, create more space so that we can see what we are doing. Then I'm going to chain on here. I will say str dot strip char, and what we are going to strip is going to be, I'm going to say strip dot Excel. Now let's see. Okay, so it says there's no attribute stripped. Okay. Okay, if that is the case, oops. That is the case, we are going to say replace, and we are going to replace this one with just spaces. And now we have the clean state names, of course in lower cases, which we can resolve later on. But basically this is what you do when you want to import multiple Excel files into Polis. There are several ways of doing this. This is the way that I do it now. So if you know any better way, faster method to do this, please drop a comment or a link to that information, and I'll be happy to see it and maybe recreate this tutorial using that information. So we are going to save our data frame. We will call it census manifold files. Remove this. And then inspect. Okay, so this is it. That's it for multiple files. Now let's look at how to import multiple Excel sheets. Okay, so here we say importing multiple or data from multiple Excel sheets. So first let's get the path, and this is what we are going to use. So I'm going to right click it, copy relative path, bring it here, but of course we need to go up one more step, so I'm going to add that. And then now we are going to do the same thing like we did above, except this is different. This is going to be different. Instead of looping through the file, we're going to loop through the sheets. So let me do concatenate, because so I'm going to do this one first. So if we do this, if we just call dot read Excel on the URL, then this is going to pull the first sheet, which has this information. This is Lakes State. So the way we are going to get all of them is to call the concatenate, because we are going to combine this vertically. And then I'm going to use the least comprehension. So we are going to say this, and then we can use the ID sheet underscore ID or sheet underscore name. I'm going to use the ID because this is much simpler. And if we do this, it's just going to give out that first sheet. So instead of doing that, I'm going to say I for I in, and I'm going to give it a list. So I tried to find a better way to do this, but I couldn't find one. I'm going to continue searching until I find a better way to do it. But for now, this is how I do it. So there are 10 sheets. So I'm going to say 1. This can be tedious if you have more than 10 sheets. So we need to find a better way to do it. But for now, this is how we are going to do it. So there are 10 sheets, 1 through 10. We are going to pull data from each of those and save it. So let's see this one. And now we see that we have 450 rows, observations, and 11 columns or variables. And it's the same data that we downloaded here, but the difference is these were 10 files. These are 10 sheets. So basically, this is how you do it. You could do the same thing we did here by extracting the sheet name if that is necessary. But to do that, you would have to replace the sheet ID with the sheet name and then record all the sheet names and put them here. And then now you use the dot column, dot underscore, dot with underscore columns method to add that new column. So this is how you pull in or import multiple Excel files and multiple Excel sheets into pollers. We are going to do some data cleaning. So I'm going to go back up, or we can do it here. I think this is not arranged in the way that I want it to be. So we are going to go back up here where we are pulling in multiple Excel files. And since we already have the data, so let's just chain on the head to pull out only the first 5 rows. And I will come back here. I'll come down here and I will repeat that because there's one more concept that I would like to illustrate. So importing multiple Excel files. I will cover this one just to save time. And I'm just going to call this census. And here, instead of importing all the columns, I would like to show you that you can also pull out specific columns of interest. So let's run this one first. And let's come down here and pull out the columns. And these are the columns. Let me put them in a list. Okay, doesn't make a difference. They are already in a list format form. So we are going to copy this. And so I will delete this, adding that column because we don't need it. And then here, there's column option. We are going to add these columns, but not all of them. Most of these are not important. We don't need them. So I'm going to delete what we don't need. Keep only what we need for this analysis or tutorial. And then we need this, which is, we don't need that because we are not going to add it. And then, so now the column argument or option is going to allow you to select columns of interest. This helps introduce the amount of data that you need to import that is not necessary. So we can inspect the output here. And we have, so we see here that we have under the former region, we have Greater Upper Nile, and under the region name, which is just the state, we have Jonglei, we have Unity, but we have null values here. I intentionally created that to demonstrate that you can use the field underscore null method to fill these in. We are going to fill them forward. In deploy R, we do fill downward. So we need to check. So let's come here and see, check for missing values first, just for the sake of it. Census dot select pl dot all dot null count. Last time I showed you two ways to do this, just using the dot null underscore count method. And we see here we have in this column here, we have 440 missing values. Here we do not have any missing values, which is good. And the other method we said last time, just for learning purposes, is dot select p dot all, and then we say is null, but this is giving us, or this gives us true false, and then we can sum them, since we know that false is equivalent to 0 and true is equivalent to 1 in programming or in Python, and then we get the same results as before. So we come down here, we want to fill null values. We're going to do it forward. So census and then we will say dot with called columns. Actually, I need to, let me comment this out. Let me clean the column names first. So we will say rename to work with the column name. So we will use the lambda function, call short for column, and we will say call for call, and then we will say lower because we want to convert them to lower cases. We also, so let's do that one first. We have convert every column name to lower cases. We want to replace spaces with underscores. Replace spaces with underscores. Let's see if that works. Yes, we did that. And also, let's rename these. I'm changing to dot rename here just for learning purposes. Otherwise, we could have just renamed everything instead of using that lambda function there. This is it's a bit redundant, but I'm putting it here so that you know you have that option if you don't need to replace any columns. But this column here, we want to rename it, so we will use a dictionary here. And this column, we will call it state. And then let's come down the variable name here. We will call it gender because it has the gender information. And this age name here, we will call it age category. We could have just said age or just call it category, but we will say age underscore category. And then the last one, which is a number here, 2008 is the population total. So we'll call it, we can call it total, but I will call it population. Now we have our columns the way we want them. And then now let's come here and say we want this column. We want to override it by replacing null values. And then we will say dot fill null. And if we want to fill it with 0, for example, let's put 0 there and see what is going on. So now that would replace the null values with 0, but that's not what we want to do. So when we click on it, we will see here, and we would be able to hover over it and see how we can do this. And so I'm going to say strategy equal forward. Let's see. Yep, and that has worked. Now let's pull out this final former underscore region column that we have just filled with forward method to see if it is exactly the way we want it. So I'm going to say census. I'm going to rename this. We will call it census, maybe cleaned for the lack of better name. And then we will come here and say census. And get another method. Let me show you this. So that this glimpse method from deploy R, which I like. So glimpse is the best way to see exactly. So I was telling her there are 450 rows, 5 columns, and the first column has all these values, but it is a string. The other one is a string, and then this is integer. Makes sense. But so let me leave that one there because that's a good hint, important hint. And then so let's say get column to pull out just one column. This is like plug in R. We want to plug it out, or using a $sign in R. We want former region. We pull that out, but we are interested in the unique values. This will tell us whether we did that correctly or we incurred some errors. So this is exactly what we expected. There are 3 former regions, and here they are. So that's how you can fill null values using the dot fill underscore null using the strategy forward. There are other ways you can fill null values, like example that I used before, just enter the number 0. But we will talk about filling null values in the future tutorial, not this one. So I think I'm going to stop it here. It's already 32 minutes, but I hope this here is going to help you work with your data, learn how to know how to import multiple Excel files into Polish, clean the data, add a new the file path as a new column, clean it up in case you need it, or just import multiple Excel sheets, which is what we have here. I hope you will find this beneficial. Please share this information with your connections. Leave us a comment on how to improve our tutorials. We are now focusing on Polish package, Python package. Package. When we are done with Polish, then we will move on to maybe pandas, and then also from pandas we'll move on to R, deploy R. But now it's strictly Polish, so we will go step by step. We went back and we started with importing data. So next time we will begin looking at each method or strategy one or a couple at a time, so that we don't have long recordings, but have tutorials that are to the point and meaningful to help you get started in Polish package. Thank you again. This is Alia Rang from Nile Quantum Insights, where we are bridging the gap between R and Python, helping those who are transitioning from from R to Python, or those who just like to leverage the power of both languages. Thank you. Have a great day.